Happy Sunday. I hope you're having a great weekend. I am going to actually have people over tonight, so after this reading, I've got to start getting the house ready and everything. So I hope you're having a wonderful, relaxing day. We are going to see what the sun, moon, and star spread has to say today. It's kind of foggy here today, which is kind of fun. I think one more, maybe. Perfect. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. Oh, this is interesting. So we have 2 major arcana, 1 minor. In the sun position, we have the Temperance card. So this is what's being illuminated, and this card talks about a couple of different things. So for one, you can see that this angel has a foot on the ground, a foot in the water. There are 2 cups, and there's water flowing between the cups, but it's like it's flowing in both directions, right? And there's also a sort of path toward the mountains with the sunrise. And there's a few different images on the card. Again, talking about like the feet in the water on land, the 2 cups, the water flowing between them. Talks about like a balancing out, but also being grounded in reality and grounded in, and also in touch with our inner world, right? So it's like this grounding, this ungrounding. And when you can sort of stay on the middle path, like the Buddhists like to talk about, it's like the middle path. You're not just focused on the solid physical real world, but you're not lost in the inner world, like in the just all up in your feels all the time either. It's like you're both. And when you're in the middle ground, or when you're in, as Eckhart Tolle talks about, you're present, you're here right now, everything is possible. And that's kind of what this the water, it's flowing between both cups. It's not just flowing down, it's also flowing up. And you can see it's at an angle. Water doesn't really flow like that, right? So, because of gravity. But when you're here now, you're in between, almost. It's like everything is possible. And so something is being illuminated in your life where maybe you need this sort of temperance quality where you're not in the extremes, you're in between, because that's where the magic is. The magic is always in between things. So I was I am a classically trained flutist, but when I was in school, one of my teachers would also say, you have to keep the air blowing between the notes. And if you keep the air blowing between the notes, that's what makes magic happen on the flute. So where do you need to be in between, or where are you in between things? Now, in the position of the moon, what needs to be released, we have the Empress. And it's funny because this card sort of came up in a reading I did recently in a similar position. And so I was talking with a friend about it who's also a tarot reader, because the Empress is a wonderful card, but in the position of what's needing to be released, I almost get this idea of like excess, or being stationary. Like she's sitting on this chair in the middle of nature, just like so abundant, right? And that's great energy. But again, it's like if you only just sit there, a lot of times things happen to you, because I guess what I'm getting at is, in the position of what's needing to be released, it's we want to release not being responsible for our lives. We can still enjoy our lives and we can still rest, absolutely. But I feel like the shadow side of the Empress is like irresponsibility, excess, and almost, it's just like too muchness, especially if something's being illuminated where you want to avoid the extremes. You want to stay present here and now. It's like you don't want to get lost in all of the, it's like too much of the good stuff. It's like you don't want to eat a whole cake, right? And the guidance going forward is, in the star position, the card is the King of Cups. Now, the King of Cups, I've talked about this because this had come up in the moon position of what's needing to be released a couple times recently. But in the guidance forward, the King of Cups is fantastic at not getting lost in his emotions. The King of Cups, the positive attribute about him is he knows that emotions are just pieces of information. So when the emotions come, when the waves of emotions come, he is grounded and he can feel the wave, acknowledge the wave, see the wave, but he's not swept away by the wave. So the king is able to recognize the emotion for what it is. It's a piece of information. It can be guidance, but it doesn't, you're not at the mercy of your emotions. So, which also kind of, again, I feel like maybe this spread is talking about your internal state a bit. I don't know. We'll clarify with an oracle deck in a minute. We'll see. But you're learning to be in the middle. You're not giving yourself over to excess, and you're staying grounded even when things come up for you, which is wonderful. So let's see what the oracle deck has to say. These cards are shuffling beautifully today, so thank you, thank you, thank you. Maybe one more. Perfect. There. Okay. It's the noise card. Yeah. I get that. Okay, so this makes a lot of sense because I did say that this spread might be about your internal state. It might not be about something out there. With the noise card, the noise card talks about how it's always been this way, but especially in our modern world, there's a lot of stimulus. And it's very tempting to see things on your screen that maybe feel, it's like you wind up indulging too much, or you get swept away by emotions when you see things. And so this card isn't, I mean, two things. Maybe this card is saying you need to turn down the noise. Maybe you've swung the pendulum too far and you need to like turn down the noise. Or this is just saying notice the noise. Like notice where things feel really noisy to you. Notice where you feel like you've been swept away by something. And see if you can come back to center.